Guys, wondering what the playlist is for the CEO for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services? We're going to get it for you today. On top of that, we're going to hear what the top producing agents are doing all across the country right now. All right, this is one of those that I've been really excited to bring to you guys. I got my buddy Chris Stuart with me today, and Chris, listen, first off, thanks for all you're doing for the industry right now, the leadership you've been giving, not just to Berkshire Hathaway, but to the whole industry. I mean, we're all better together. I know you've been doing that. Listen, with this whole change up in COVID this year, I mean, you're looking good, man. You lost some weight. You've been a little more focused on your health. I want to start with this question, because a lot of people know the real Chris Stuart, like I do. What would be on your playlist from the last run you made? I think this might be
Oh man, I love that. I love that question. And well, first of all, I got to say, Jimmy, thank you, buddy. Thank you for the opportunity to join you and the audience here. I know, and I'm sure that, like me, they are attracted to you and your energy and your leadership and your vision and your charisma. So, I love being around you. I'm a huge fan of yours, and so thank you for the opportunity to be with you. And yeah, like you, man, I enjoy things that are positive and upbeat. And in terms of my playlist, I play mostly hip hop. I mean, it's mostly hip hop, a little bit of the blend of the old and the new. I've got a soon-to-be 17-year-old son who is in a lot of ways a lot like me when I was 17 years old. We're into the same things, play a lot of basketball, listen to hip hop, and so we share. I get him into the old school, the early 90s stuff, and he gets me into what's going on right now. So I got a lot of Roddy Ricch. I got a lot of I love Drake. I know that's probably maybe not popular with some of the younger the younger crowd. They like to hate on Drake, but I love Drake, Roddy Ricch, Rod Wave. I would say in terms of my last several playlist additions, it's been those three guys right there.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. No wonder you're running so much, man. You put that. How can you not run?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's going to keep you there. Well, that kind of brings us to that, because I think everything shapes us. It's almost like, when we look back, what's the old saying? When you look back in the rearview mirror, you can see where everything was positioning to put you and grow you in ways to prepare you for a time such as this, for the position you're in. Let's talk about that. You started kind of in humble beginnings and then got opportunities. Let's talk about how you got to where you are today as far as kind of the journey, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So, academically, I always really enjoyed and was very good in science and math. And when I grew up in Dallas, went to Texas A&M University, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do professionally. But I went to A&M on a biology, really a biochemistry, the biology major with a chemistry minor. And I did that really, as I said, only because I really liked science and actually tutored science and math as a means of getting some extra money and help, put myself through college that way. So I really enjoyed those subjects. And so really on a flyer, I went to one of the job fairs at A&M. They do the job fairs and all the companies come in and they're recruiting you and you're doing all this. So on a flyer, I hit it off with two recruiters that work for this company that were at the job fair. And of all the opportunities that I was looking at and all the different companies that were there, the most exciting thing to me about that opportunity was it meant I get to move and work in New York City. I got to move to New York City and work in New York City. I've really never even been out of the state of Texas. I don't think many more than 2 or 3 times. I remember I drove to Florida and I drove up to Kansas a couple of times because we had relatives up there. And that was about it, brother. I had never really been on a plane much outside of Texas. And so it just seemed so exciting. And these two energetic young recruiters that work for this company really sold me on the opportunity. And so I passed up some other, pretty stable, well-seasoned opportunities coming out of A&M that I could have taken. But I did that, and it was a technology company. And I'll never forget, I did a local interview, a phone-based interview, and an interview in Austin with the company's office there. And then they said, hey, we're going to fly you to New York City as the next step in the interview process. I never forget, brother, sitting downtown New York City, my first ever trip to the city. I'm on the 40th floor of this company's headquarters location, the 40th floor overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge. I remember going into the lobby, checking in, and then sitting down in the seat there and reaching over and finding one of the brochures from this company and reading that brochure and realizing I had no idea what this company did. I had no idea, no clue. And there I am sitting on the 40th floor overlooking the Brooklyn Bridge thinking, how in the world did I get myself into this situation? But the interview went great. They offered me the job. I flew back, finished school, did the summer, and then moved up there to New York City. And then that particular opportunity, they transferred me out to San Jose, Silicon Valley, California. And from there, I went to work at Oracle Corporation, one of the largest software companies in the world, and basically, just kind of took off from there in terms of my career in technology. And from that, it was really kind of a crazy series of stories, really.
I bet. I know. And then that shift, obviously the relationship with Gino, how has that shaped where you've come and made that shift from technology, which is pretty amazing now, into the real estate business?
Yeah. And so, what was interesting is I met my wife out in Silicon Valley. One of her first cousins, he was also in technology, and he grew up there in the San Jose area. So we started running with some common friends and ended up meeting a guy who had spent his whole career as a manager for Gino. And so my wife's cousin, Albert, he decided to leave his career in technology, and this guy told him to consider a career in real estate. So he went, and this is 1998, went and met Gino for a cup of coffee. 6 months later, he's selling real estate for Gino. And so I got to see Gino and meet him and some of the other folks in the organization through the perspective of my cousin, who became the Rookie of the Year and now a perennial, top 1% performer in that company, still to this day selling real estate there in Silicon Valley. And so when I made the move into real estate brokerage, I only ever considered making a move to work with Gino. I never even considered taking any other opportunities. And so when I came into real estate brokerage, of course, I had all of that different experience from within side of technology, and I brought those perspectives and experiences with me to my career in real estate, which has really helped, just provide a different lens from which to look at the opportunities that we have here and the opportunities to grow and scale and bring efficiency and things like that. That's really, 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 super excited about.
Yeah, and obviously looking back, it's hard to see that now here you are, president of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices and CEO for HSF Affiliates, that all of those steps really led to this. I think sometimes we get so focused on where we are right now that we don't realize how important being good where you are and what you've got. And I think sometimes when I'll focus on the things and make sure that I'm thinking, okay, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. I'm exactly in front of the person I'm supposed to add the most value to, how those combinations compound over time and those relationships build, and I've seen it with you, as we've gotten to know each other better, how you spend, literally, I've watched you where we'll be somewhere and you'll have someone that comes up in front of you and it's literally like you just completely focused on that one individual. How have you been able to really, through this journey, be able to stay focused and almost be fully present? Because we've got so many distractions coming at us where we can, I'm sure your phone's just shaking over there. Mine's shaking over here. You know what I mean? Where we stay focused. What would you say is to that agent that needs to focus right now on the people that are right in front of them?
Yeah, boy, you hit on really two great topics there, Jimmy, that I want to spend some time on both. Is that I think it is critical that people really have a passion and an interest to be the best at whatever they are right now. And as an example, I've met so many salespeople throughout my career, real estate included, but also other industries, where the salesperson doesn't even have an idea of the contract they're selling. They don't even know what they're selling really. And as it applies to real estate, of course, the contract, the disclosures, the inventory, the neighborhoods, the communities, the trending analysis on valuation. There's so many elements of what it means to be a great salesperson and to really want to be great at that and not be so focused on what the next step in your pathway is and the next step in your journey. Because if you cut too many corners, you're going to find yourself out on an island without another step to make. Whereas if you just put your faith in the next step in your journey on the basis of creating the best foundation for yourself wherever you are right now, that's the best thing. And I think so many people are just so wanting to fast forward and create shortcuts that they miss that. And that is a building block to the next element, which is to be constantly in the service of others. You know, I feel like every single day that I get up, I'm just in the service of other people. And I can be of service better to someone if I'm more stable on the foundation that I'm on, right? If I really understand what I'm talking about and where I'm providing service, that means I'm just going to be of more value to the person I'm serving. And I think that it's in the service of others that creates the opportunities. So in other words, a lot of people are goal-oriented and they're very vision-focused, and I think that's great. But our ability to achieve those goals and visions is going to be a function of the value that we're providing to the people that we have in front of us today, and the value that we provide is a function of the depth of the substance that we bring to the conversation or the service. And so I think that for me is I just really want to understand what I'm talking about, be the best at what it is that I can be. And then I think that the final element is I think that we can all benefit from listening more. I really want to listen to who I'm talking to and what they're trying to achieve. I want to ask great questions, and I want to respond to their questions in a way that's meaningful. And I think so that all revolves around being focused and being attentive to who it is, so that I'm not off to the next task before I'm done with this one. And I think to me, those are some of the things that always kind of play into my psychology and view of what my role is and where I can add value.
No, I completely agree. That brings us to this. Let's kind of shift a little bit from the general sense to let's go straight on in on real estate. I mean, obviously, the trends we've been seeing, some things have changed, some things have stayed the same. Let's talk about the loyalty value. I mean, you talked about this where there's a gap almost there, and I think this is so true. What are you seeing out there that you see industry-wide of where there's maybe some gaps that are missing and some ways that agents can fill some of those gaps?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jimmy. And I think, what I would say first is this. I know a lot of people, salespeople, marketing people, which our real estate agents are both sales and marketing professionals. They're really small business entrepreneurs, small business CEOs. And I know the tendency for a lot of us is that, what I do is so different. My market is so different, or what I sell is so different, or how I have to market is so different. But the reality is it's not. There's so many things that are alike, a few things that are different between the way other companies, small businesses and medium-sized and large businesses all combined. When people are selling to consumers, whether they're selling a product or a service, there's more things that are similar than are dissimilar. So I think the first thing is to understand that as a real estate agent or team, when you look at your goal of building and growing and sustaining your business, the challenges that you have compared to someone that might be selling insurance, or maybe someone that might be selling financial planning, or someone that might be selling automobiles, or different types of products and services. The reality is those companies, those industries, those people, there's a lot more in common to what those people are doing and those businesses are doing to sell to consumers than you think. And so then I think about, okay, how do we then look at what's common versus always focusing on what's uncommon? Because if you can look at what's common, then you can start to look at those industries and how they sell and market to the same consumer you're appealing to and start to leverage best practices, okay? Now, the one thing that I would say is when you look at the real estate industry, only about 7% of the people that own homes turn over those homes every year. That means that 93% of your potential marketplace sits dormant in any given year. Only 7% is transacting. So the first thing you want to start looking at is what are some of the other industries who are not dealing in a high frequency environment? Well, people don't buy cars every year. People don't change their insurance companies every year. People rarely change their financial planners. Now, they might still sell stocks and bonds a lot, but you can start to see that there's some commonalities. So the one thing that I point out that I think is, to me, this is probably the most critical error and or opportunity in our industry, and that is what I call the loyalty value void. What do I mean by that? Every single year, the National Association of Realtors does a comprehensive survey surveying buyers and sellers who have transacted in the last 12 months. And every year they survey thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people. And one of the questions they ask is, would you use your realtor again? So you just got through transacting a deal in the last 12 months. Would you use them again? And 80 to 90% of the time, buyers and sellers who complete the survey say, yep, absolutely, I'd use my realtor again. She was great, or he was awesome. We loved them. Great. Then the survey also asks, hey, you just did a deal. If you've done a deal before, in other words, this wasn't the first home you bought or sold, did you use the agent that you used before? Did you actually use them? And you know what they say, Jimmy? 12 to 20% of the people, only 12 to 20% of the people say they actually use the agent that they used on their prior transaction. So this gap, this void between the 80 or 90% of people who desire to use their same realtor, but the 12 to 20% who actually do, this is what I call my loyalty value void. Why do I call it loyalty value void? Because it is a gap. In other words, it's a void. Something is missing. What is missing is the loyalty of the buyer or seller who desires to use their realtor again. So 80 to 90% of the time, they want to use their same realtor from the past again, but only 12 to 20% do, and that is because there's a value gap. Primarily, our agents and teams are not focused on the long-term relationship post-transaction so that they close that loyalty value void. And the final point that I would make is when we look at insurance, in other words, Geico, State Farm, Allstate, you state, Farmers Insurance, you choose. When we look at the different financial planning companies, Fidelity or Ameriprise, et cetera, when we look at automotive, when we look at airlines, Delta, American Airlines, when we look at hotel and travel and hospitality, Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, we can study these industries and we know for a fact that when customers say that they're loyal to those brands, they are loyal at a clip of 80 or 90%. In other words, if you're a Marriott loyalty person, when you go and book your next vacation, trust me, you're looking for Marriott first. If you're a Delta Airlines loyalty customer, trust that when you book your next airfare, you're looking at Delta first. In our industry, we don't have that behavior. We have a client who wants to be loyal 80 to 90% of the time, but is only loyal 12 to 20% of the time. Those under the other industries, when their clients say, I want to be loyal 80 to 90% of the time, guess what? They're loyal 80 to 90% of the time. So that is an enormous opportunity that we have to help our agents understand and have to help them close that gap.
And the biggest thing for that is the relationship in between. We had an industry, now me being in this for 25 plus years, we've got an industry where we are so transaction focused. And now we're focused on the relationship, which changes everything. Can you speak to the relationship side of it?
Yeah, that's it. And again, I think it goes back to some of my earlier comments is that if I'm focused on the relationship, then I need to be focused on what's in it for my client. And I think so much of what we do as an industry is we're focused on what's in it for me. When's the next deal come to me? What do I need to do or say or provide that generates something of value for me? And I'm saying, no. We've got to reverse that. 100% of our focus of value needs to be on the basis of how can we help our customers, our clients, homeowners. How can we help them understand the value of their home, how to increase the value of their home, how to understand different market dynamics, how to help them with maintenance tips, remodeling, renovation tips, refinancing tips. What is it that we can do in this relationship, Jimmy, that allows our value and everything that we have to be completely focused on adding as much value relationally to our customers, recognizing that the deals will come. Let's not continue focused on finding the next deal. Focus on providing value and being the best that we can be in everything that we bring to the table. The deals will come.
I think it's the passion for what we're doing. You know, when we get to a point where we're building the relationships by adding that value, I mean, just like you said, if I can spend time with agents, what I typically want to know is what's really driving you? What do you get excited about? What can you do to line that up with your value add to your clients, your past clients, your existing database? When we can line those things up, a lot of times what we'll see is we see the biggest complaint when you look at the surveys that the typical person has for our industry is a lack of communication. So when we're looking at this, and this is what I really appreciate what you've done, because sometimes you got to see before you can be. And so I appreciate the leadership you've been doing as far as since COVID hit, really doing these interviews with top agents, going in and talking to them about what's working so that we share that. And then by seeing that, now I see our agents spending more time adding value, asking the questions, trying to do more personal referrals or recommendations online. So let's talk a little bit about, now that you spent some time with top agents, and maybe share what your thought process was there and what you've been doing. There have to be some patterns you see in top agents. Can you share some of that, what you're seeing right now with some of those top agents?
Yeah, that's great, Jimmy. And I would say there are several things that I see continue to repeat themselves. One is most of the top agents, I would say not all, but most of them, I would say 90+% operate from a plan. They operate with very deliberate intentionality as to what they're doing. And typically, when you ask them specific questions about their business, they have a great command of it. In other words, they know where their business comes from. They have a pretty good idea of which sources of business development, whether it's working with their past contacts and customers, or their geographical farming, or they're working, different direct mail types of strategies, or buying leads online. No, there's no silver bullet from that standpoint, but the best producers, they really understand what's working, where are they converting best, and a pretty good handle on what their expenses are. So from a business planning standpoint, I would say that is a key common denominator. The next thing is they're very focused on contact. They're very, very focused on making contact. I see a lot of other agents who tend to hide and mask activity behind sending emails, sending text messages, and things like that I just don't think, particularly in today's world and moving forward even more so, I think people are going to value more and more the physical relationship, the connectivity, the eyeball to eyeball, even if it's over a video chat or a Zoom meeting. Very connected and focused on contacts. I would say the next thing is they're very focused on their communities. They really have a command for the inventory in their market. Some are more or less analytical, and I don't even think that that's important, but they really understand the inventory. They understand the neighborhoods. They have a real feel for the community. And I would say, which I love about what you're doing, Jimmy, is those that take that real community focus and accessorize that with video, where they're really exhibiting their knowledge and they're out in the community, touring neighborhoods, touring new home development communities, touring the various social opportunities in a community. I think that is another key quality of the top producers. And then I would say that they're emotionally disconnected from the outcome. I think that the top producers understand that that their job is to add value to the customers and to not get emotionally attached to the outcome of deals, so that they can really maintain their fiduciary and have a good, strong position on negotiating on behalf of their clients.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I think I've really been focusing with our agents when I'll ask them, and it makes them nervous sometimes when we're doing some coaching with them. I'll say, hey, bring your day planner. I can tell you what your business is going to look like if you just let me look at what does your day look like. Is
Amen.
it planned at all? Are you playing defense or offense? Have you got time blocked to have those contacts? Or are you just basically trying to wait and see which plate stops spinning enough? You got to go spin that plate. And I'll tell you this because I've spent a lot of time with a lot of top producers recently because I'm like you. I'm just really been calling around trying to find out what's working in these different markets so we can bring it here locally. One of the biggest things I see is I've almost shifted for this fourth quarter, going into the fourth quarter for us, and I want it to be the quarter of discipline. I want it to be and the bad thing is you got to have some quarters of undiscipline to be able to understand you need discipline, but when we get disciplined with our calendar and we have time block, we started trying to do literally, how many people are practicing on their, as we hear, practicing their scripts or practicing their conversations on the clients instead of doing that beforehand. Tomorrow morning we're having one where we're having all our agents come in and we're going to answer the 4 questions in the survey that we heard the most that they wanted to hear how it was answered. I'm not going to just do it. We've got 4 of our top producers so they can hear that. I think getting to a place where we get some discipline, and this is obviously, it's evident what's going on, physically for you, relationally for you. I think everybody came into this with certain things going on, speaking of COVID. There are certain people that realize, hey, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to get better physically, relationally, mentally, family, spiritually, all those areas. Let's talk about that. Maybe what you've seen with some of the agents maybe that started to refocus on some things that maybe they got lax on. Is there anything in particular from a standpoint of any area of the life that you see where it just, you got to be having more energy now with everything you've been doing. You got to have more of a thing going on. What are you seeing out there as far as maybe some shifts that we saw that have changed the way people think?
Yeah, well, I would say those are some great points, Jimmy. I'm glad you made them. And as a add-on point to discipline and time management and things like that is accountability. I think that the very best agents also demonstrate a willingness and a structure in their business where they're accountable. They're accountable to their teams, a mastermind group, a coach, a manager within their office like you as an example with some of your great folks. So that element of accountability I think is critical. In fact, myself and Gino is really kind of a hallmark of his career and something that I've adopted in our last 15 years together or so is the 4 disciplines of execution, which are number 1, create your wildly important goals. Number 2, act on your lead measures. Number 3, create a scorecard for success or visualize your success and scorekeep. And number 4 is create a cadence of accountability. That accountability piece is the piece of engagement. And so I would say that is enormously powerful. I would say, the other thing too is, so much of what happens in our lives is controlled by either the people that are right around us. So I've heard it described as like your circle of 5, right? The 5 people that influence you most outside of your family or the folks that you surround yourself the most with. So it's like your circle of 5. But I think another part of our culture today is the role that media and the headlines play. And so what I'm saying is that 2 things. Number 1, the agents that had a very specific, deliberate vision for the role that they wanted to have as real estate professionals during COVID and throughout this, they maintained a discipline and a vigilance towards doing the activities that they know they needed to do, which is, quite frankly, just a lot of contact, just a lot of hand-to-hand contact, right? Outreach, videos, text, whatever it was, Zoom meetings in the beginning while the shutdowns, but just a lot of activity, and they were clear with that. And did that from the perspective that they did not let the media and the noise and the headlines dictate their perspective and optimism for what was possible. And number 2, as it relates to headline and allowing the media to influence what's happening, is that they made a very conscientious decision that they would be the storytellers to their clients about what was actually happening in the real estate market. And I can't tell you, I'm sure, Jimmy, you'd agree, I can't tell you how surprised I am still with friends that are in my personal network, that maybe I haven't seen in the last several months or talked to because of what's been going on. And I see them and they ask, how's the market? And I share with them what's happening in the real estate market. And they're shocked because in their mind, the story that they're telling themselves and or their interpretation of maybe something they're seeing in the headlines, they just assume that the real estate market has been masked by the same thing we saw in the 07-08 downturn. But it's not that. But unless a real estate agent has that conversation with a customer, a lot of times they don't know because they're telling themselves their own story. So I think the ability for agents to program the space between their ears and to recognize that they have an obligation to tell the story on behalf of the real estate industry to their contacts and past clients, and then to be dedicated and committed to being out there and actually making those contacts and telling those stories has been a huge takeaway too from top performers.
I would completely agree. I think that we find what we search for. So if you're searching for the opportunity, you're going to find the opportunity. If you're searching for something to be worried about and fearful for, there's plenty of it to find. It really is, where's that focus, man? This is what, one of the things too, I want to say a little thank you from a standpoint of, the 4 disciplines of execution. It's something we've taken as a company, and it has made a tremendous difference. Personally, it's made a tremendous difference with me, with the group I'm in with Susan Ireland and the leadership from the brand. But then we've taken it on that local level. We start back on Friday with our groups again. And basically, like you say, we really focus on those leading indicators, those things we know that we know. If we do these things, then this will happen. It's conversations, it's contacts, it's all those things. And with that group, the accountability portion, let me say this. We do our meetings on Fridays. Some of the most effective and most probably the best days in our offices are on Thursday afternoons. And the reason being is because, listen, it's not that when they get on, they tell us what they said they were going to do this week. And then they say they either did it or they didn't. And it's not like anybody's going to be on there like, you suck for not doing what you said you were going to do. But, man, I don't want to let you down. So I'm going to do those things. So Thursday afternoons get real effective for us. And then that little bit of accountability, that psychology of it, and then pairing people together, getting that opportunity for people to share with each other. It's amazing what it did from a culture perspective, where all of a sudden now, the typical person in our industry is like, I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. Like they're going to steal. Like there's not an abundant amount of opportunity out there. Yeah. So what we do with this is somebody shares, I got this listing, and then I prompt them by saying, tell us how you got it. What was the cadence of communication? How did it come about initially? What was the follow-up? How many times you have to talk to them? And then all of a sudden I see people taking notes while somebody's saying they got this listing from that. And they come back the next week and they say, hey, Chris, you remember when you said that last week? Hey, man, this week I did what you said and I got 2 listings. And all of a sudden now everybody starts cheering for each other. It's something you can't create without having that accountability there. So from that standpoint, let me ask you this as we're wrapping up, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Man, what are you excited about right now? What gets you excited about the real estate industry, life as general? What is just really exciting you right now?
Well, I think, Jimmy, that we're going to look back on this, period of history here in the U.S. as the largest movement of people since post-World War II. Mm-hmm. I think that, if you look at the forecasts, the work from home segment of the professional population was about 5%. So about 5% of professionals worked from home on a full-time basis. They are projecting that will go to 33% in a post-COVID world. So the opportunity, and we already see it, of people moving, in and out of states, moving from, states with state income taxes to no state income taxes, moving into, warm weather climates, closer to family, bringing, older parents closer to them. I mean, the movement of people that we're seeing right now, I think we'll look back on this, and it will be a very, very welcomed inflection point in our industry here in real estate sales, because we've created boundless geographies for the American worker. And we thought that technology had done that for us pre-COVID, but nothing has done that like COVID, because organizations are seeing their productivity relatively unchanged. Organizations are seeing an opportunity to reduce costs and expenses in the form of fixed office assets. This is an enormously positive thing for us in the real estate business, the movement of people and families.
Yeah, it's exciting to think. And I'll tell you something on top of that, Chris, what it's done also is now that more people are home, it's not even geographic moves. We're seeing a lot of people that are locals for us that they're making adjustments. They're modifying because they're like, okay, now I've been home and now I really do want that pool, or I really could use that office, or wow, we really could use that extra bedroom for these kids that end up coming home like we didn't think they were going to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's going to shift. And I'm with you. I believe we are watching, this is the way I've put it, the reverse of the Industrial Revolution, where you had people leaving and moving to the more industrialized areas, and you're having almost at least we're seeing a portion of it here, where maybe that desirability is to have a sense of community that maybe we've lost a little bit, over the years.
Yeah.
Maybe that opportunity to have a little dense, not as dense of an area. So it's pretty encouraging. Listen, I want to do this because I love your Good to Know podcast. It's great. The best place to find you, if somebody's listening to this, what would be the best way? Facebook, podcast, what would be the best way?
Yeah, I would say right now is a couple of things. A few things. Number one, my blog is stewspropertyviews.com. So Stu, S-T-U-S, stewspropertyviews.com. That's my blog. They can see all of my posts, all of my videos. They can access my Facebook pages, my LinkedIn, the podcast as well. But yeah, we run the Good to Know podcast. So wherever you pick up your podcast, you can go to the Good to Know podcast. And then I'm on Facebook. All my social handles are the same. I'm at HSF Chris Stuart. And Stuart is S-T-U-A-R-T.
We'll put all that in the show notes. Hey, let's just close with this. If there's an agent out there that wants to grow their business, that knows there's probably more than what they've been getting out of themselves, because ultimately, as you and I have always talked about, this is a personal development business. This draws people that want to do more. What would you say to that agent in closing that's out there that maybe is thinking about, it's got to be something more here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what I would say to that person is congratulations on your willingness to ask yourself and ask the universe the question, what else is there? What else can I do? How do I get better? Because that's the first step is, hey, look for something. Like you just said, you were so eloquent with that. You find what you're looking for, right, Jimmy? So you got to know what you're looking for. You're looking to get better. You're looking for help. You're looking for some suggestions. That's great. That's the first thing. Here's what I would always say, Jimmy, is the most important thing for people to understand is that there's a difference between resources and resourcefulness. And I'm reminded of so many different stories. As an example, a guy about 15 years ago, he turned a red paper clip into a brand new home. He took that red paper clip, he went onto eBay, and he asked somebody if they'd be willing to barter something for that red paper clip. And just because of the novelty of his story and the novelty of this red paper clip, the paper clip turns into a keg of beer, turns into a neon sign, turns into a motorcycle, turns into a part in a movie, turns into a home. And the story's much longer than that, but that is an example of someone being inspired to achieve a vision and recognizing that I didn't need the new home. That's a resource. I just need to be more resourceful. How do I turn what I have, in this case a red paper clip, into what I want? And so I would say that in this industry, a lot of times people are looking for the resources. They're looking for this new website or this new fangled lead generation tool or some beautiful postcard imagery that you feel like people are, oh, that's what people need to see. No. They need to see you. They need to see your willingness and commitment to go above and beyond and provide extraordinary service, quality, convenience, and value. You got to package all of those things. Those are resources that you have at your disposal. But you have to activate them, and that's what it means to be resourceful. And so I would just encourage people to understand you don't need things. You have every single thing that you need inside of yourself, between your ears, and the reality is with your cell phone, which we all have. And so I just encourage people to be inspired by that opportunity that they have to create for themselves in this business.
I will say this on a personal note. Thank you for inspiring me. I appreciate all you do, for your leadership, for everything you do. I know some people got some things out of this. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you reach out and you follow Chris. I'll tell you this, the stuff that he's putting out there right now is so helpful to the industry. I would highly encourage you to get involved with everything that he's got going on out there. Chris, again, thank you for being here. We'll talk to you guys soon.